Well, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for joining us today for our new knowledge session. This is an ongoing session that we have started in 2014 to support the Washington County Business Challenge. It's a competitive business plan and pitch contest to help businesses get started and grow within the county. It's also become one of the longest running training sessions in Virginia, and we don't just have people now in Southwest Virginia watching our programs, we're getting them from all over the Commonwealth of Virginia. This is a program that in partnership with the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator, Virginia Community Capital, which is who I represent. And by the way, my name is Sandy Ratliff. I'm sorry I failed to do that, but I'm with Virginia Community Capital. And also the town of Abington is a partner in this program. Now, before I introduce our presenter today, I just wanted to let you know that today's session is being recorded for training and educational purposes. And following the event, we will be uploading this session to our various Facebook and YouTube channel. And if you don't know, if you've not taken advantage of all the trainings that we've done in the past, we have a YouTube channel that's probably got close to 200 training sessions over the past years since 2015 when we started recording these, and it's a great on-demand resource for you. So all you have to do is go to YouTube /new knowledge, or look up new knowledge and start following us so you can have access to that. Now, in order to keep within our 1 hour time frame, we have muted everyone. However, we want to hear from you. So if you have a question for our speaker today, please post those in the Q&A and chat feature, and we will address those as we move forward. I am delighted to have Chris Clear here today to lead our session. Chris is with Atlantic Merchant. He has been involved in as a business owner with other things that he's involved with, but it's really the focus is on payment processes, and his leading has been recognized as one of the top financial services persons yearly since 2014, which says a lot that he knows what he's doing. As I said, Chris has a few businesses of his own and understands the challenges that small businesses and organizations face on a daily basis. I'm sure Chris can share more with you, but Chris, I really appreciate you joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedule. And I am going to turn it over to you. And if you want to share your screen, you're welcome to. But again, I just encourage our audience that if you have questions, please post those and we will get to them. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you so much. Let me see if I can get this screen share to work. So let's see here. Can you see that okay? You should be able to see a PowerPoint.
Yes.
Excellent. And for the future reference, I'm going to record that, take the recording of you introduce me, and I'm going to take that everywhere. That was fantastic. So thank you so much for the kind words. And thank you all for tuning in. As Sandy mentioned, I do work with Atlantic Merchant. We're a fantastic company that has been around for almost 18 years at this point. And I'm going to give a little bit of background on myself and on Atlantic Merchant. And then we're going to dive into the topic of the day, which is we're going to talk about point of sale solutions for businesses, whether you're restaurant or retail. And then we're also going to talk about selling products online. And we were just having a brief conversation before this recording started. We've seen a drastic increase over the last year, whether it's because of, it's primarily, I think, due to COVID, but there could be some other factors as well, where businesses that have been around for some time are implementing point of sale solutions to help them have better access, but also better control of the business. And we're seeing more and more people who are traditionally they're owners of a business that would traditionally be considered retail and not someone that would sell online, maybe because of the region that they're in, or the products that they sell, but because of COVID, they've had to make that change and begin selling online. So first, a little bit about myself. My background, as Sandy mentioned, I've been a part of the payments industry for quite some time. Over 20 years in sales and marketing. But like I said, the majority of that time has been in the payments industry. I became a part of Atlantic Merchant in 2011, and just recently celebrated my 10th year with Atlantic. And I was fortunate to be recognized as doing a pretty good job there. And so they brought me in as a partner, or maybe a partner in 2015. A little bit about Atlantic Merchant. We are a full service processing company that's been in business over 17 years. Like I said, we're about to hit our 18th anniversary. And we provide payment solutions for all different types of businesses, from retail to restaurants, business to business, for those companies that are selling to other companies, business to government. We have a lot of clients in the business to business space, as well as the business to government space. And of course, e-commerce and mobile. Primarily, what sets us apart from quite a few of the companies that are in the credit card processing space is that a majority of the companies that are out there, over 98%, they get their business by either cold calling on the phone or by walking into businesses, going door to door. Sometimes it's by mail or email, but primarily it's cold calling. It's trying to convince people to do business with them. What sets us apart at Atlantic is that we actually partner with banks and credit unions, CPA firms, web developers, as well as people from many different industries. We partner with them because it gives us a much warmer introduction to a business, and it helps that business owner know that they're working with someone that their bank or credit union trusts, or maybe it's the CPA that they are being referred by, or the web developer. But it gives them a sense of trust, because they're not just, we're not just someone calling them off the street or something like that. Now, we are also endorsed by the Community Bankers Bank, and if any of the folks watching this are in the banking industry, you'll appreciate that endorsement, as it is not something that is easy to come by. Okay, so like I mentioned before, we're going to talk about point of sale solutions and the benefits of using them, and we're going to talk about e-commerce, really why, if you're not selling online, you should be. But we're also going to spend some time talking about the security, because if you don't focus on the security, selling online can be beneficial, but could also be very costly for you. And we're going to spend some time talking about Omnicommerce, and not only what it is, but how it can help the business grow. So first things first, let's talk about point of sale solutions. And why would you choose a point of sale solution? I'm actually going to back up just a second before we talk about why you should choose one. Let's talk about what a point of sale solution is. So if you ever have been in a restaurant or a business and you see a computer screen in front of the person who is checking you out, if you've ever seen someone with a tablet in their hand, or maybe just a small screen where they're touching everything on the screen to ring up your order, that is typically going to be a point of sale solution. So think of it as a modern version of a cash register. However, it's not just something like a cash register that's going to tally up the sale. It's actually going to do quite a bit more. So a point of sale solution is going to provide a complete overview of the business. And that complete overview is going to be everything from talking about what your sales look like on a daily basis. It's going to track your sales tax. And for those of you that are already in business, you can appreciate something that's keeping a running total of sales tax, so that you're able to reference that at any time, instead of waiting until sales tax is due and suddenly trying to figure out, oh my gosh, do I have enough money in the account to pay for that? It's also going to track your employees' time, because your employees are going to clock in and clock out through the system. It's going to track your inventory, and it's also going to track your customer data and give remote access for owners who are not in the business all day, every day. As business owners, one of the perks of having a business is that you get to see things happen while you're there. But sometimes you just can't be there, either because you need some time off, or maybe you have some other things that take priority at times. And so having that remote access to know what the inventory looks like, as well as what your sales are looking like, how much cash should be in the drawer. You'd be amazed how many times we've had clients who were able to realize that there were issues with maybe employee theft or embezzlement, courtesy of remote access to their point of sale. Now, let's talk about the different types of point of sale solutions that are out there. The first one, and really the one that many people are probably familiar with, especially if you're my age and you're in your 40s or older, are the traditional point of sale systems. And those are ones that are server based. So essentially what happens is the business has computers in their business, maybe at each checkout station. And then they'll also have a server that's probably going to be in a back office. And everything that's happening with that point of sale is going through that server. So the server is actually keeping track of all the information, and hopefully it's backing up as it should. But everything is housed on that server. Some really popular examples that are well known would be like Aloha, Micros is another one. Those are traditionally ones that you would see involved with a restaurant. Today, you'll see those still being used in a majority of the larger chain restaurants, but they're great systems and have been around for a long time. There's some pros and some cons to them. Pros being they are very well known, and because they're used in similar businesses, if you do have employees going from one business to another, there's a good chance they're going to be familiar with the system because they've already used it at their previous employer. Some of the cons is that you will pay a bit more upfront with the equipment, and typically you can also pay quite a bit more with the monthly fees for maintenance and things like that. One of the biggest concerns that we have had in the past with our clients that use the traditional server-based POS options is the challenge of whether or not they're actually backing up as they should. Sometimes those automatic backups happen, which is fantastic, but if an automatic backup is not happening, the real concern there is that the transactions that are happening daily, as well as all the reporting, all of those things I mentioned on the previous slide, the inventory, or in a restaurant's case, menu items, all of that data, if the server happens to crash, all that data is going to be lost if the backups aren't happening. So, like I said, they're great systems, and in some businesses, they are perfect for them. It's just a matter of whether or not it's what you would need in your business. Now, the more commonly seen point of sale solutions at this point, and this industry is continuing to grow and flourish, and even the companies that have the traditional server-based systems, they've developed tablet-based systems, and this is just something that we continue to see. Tablet or cloud-based systems are incredibly popular. I'm going to list out a few that I'm sure our viewers have seen or have probably used at either in their own business or in others. One of the first ones that I'm sure many people are familiar with is Square. They do a great job of advertising and marketing. Another is Talic. Talic's a point of sale system that's been around at this point a little over 10 years. And so in the tablet-based world, that's quite a timeline. Clover is another very popular one. And as well as NCR Silver. QuickBooks, believe it or not, does have a tablet-based version. And then another very popular one is Harbor Touch. The biggest thing about the cloud-based systems is it's in the name. They're cloud-based. And so what's great there is these solutions all operate off of a tablet. In some cases, you're going to be able to use your own Android or iPad, Android tablet or iPad. In other cases, you're going to use one that is part of the system. It's all built in. But instead of having that information, all of the reporting, all of the inventory, the employees' hours, all of that information being stored on a server in your business, it's all stored in the cloud. And what makes that really nice is as long as that point of sale has connectivity to the internet, you're able to process payments. And what makes that part especially important is if you've ever been in a business, or even think about it when you're at home, if you're trying to work on your computer at home and your power goes down, suddenly you have no power, which means you have no internet, you have no Wi-Fi. Well, you can take your cell phone and turn it into a hotspot. And if you turn it into a hotspot, a cloud-based system will work perfectly for you. When it comes to the traditional server-based systems, in order for the cell phone to act as a hotspot and work, you have to connect each of the checkout stations, but then you also have to go in and make sure that server is connected as well. And so it's certainly something that can be done, but it does take a little bit more time. And most importantly, in the event of a power outage, you're not going to be able to do that with a server-based system at all because of the power outage. But if the internet happened to go down, you would still have that capability. As far as the other benefits of a cloud-based system, all of them, the equipment will be considerably less than what you're facing when looking at traditional systems that are server-based. You're going to have the ability to use your own tablet for several of these, and the overall cost, both upfront but also monthly, will be considerably less than what you pay when looking at a server-based system. Some of the systems will offer you incentives to sign contracts, leases on equipment. We as a company don't really promote that at all, but some of those cloud-based systems will offer that to you. What we tend to prefer is, obviously go with what works best for you, whether it's buying the equipment up front or, even renting on a monthly basis. What I can tell you is in the future, you'll see fewer options for the server-based systems, and you'll see even more cloud-based systems appear. And you'll also see those cloud-based systems continue to grow and evolve to offer so much more than just payments. Now, the last type of point of sale would be a mobile-based system. And when it comes to the mobile-based systems, there's a few different ones that are out there. Square is one that, of course, has been around for quite some time, just like their tablet-based system. Talic also has a mobile-based system. And what I'm talking about on mobile is I'm talking about being able to use that specifically on your cell phone, whether it's an Android or an iPhone, but give you the ability to not only keep track of your payments and process those payments, but also to be able to track the inventory and things along those lines. Now, I'm going to exit out and we're going to go to the next slide, and then we're going to go back in because for some reason, PowerPoint is not playing well on my computer. Now we're going to talk about e-commerce. So what exactly is e-commerce to begin with? Well, first and foremost, it's selling online. Whether you have a product or a service that you're selling, or even if you're a restaurant and you're taking payments online, that is considered e-commerce. Now, what's needed to sell online? Well, in a perfect world, you're going to have a website because obviously you want somewhere that you can showcase your products and your services. As part of a website, you're going to have what's called a shopping cart. And that shopping cart is going to give your customers a way to choose the items they want to purchase and put those into the shopping cart. Once you have that shopping cart installed on your website, you're going to need something called a gateway. And a gateway does, think of it as the connector. So you have your website, and then you will need a merchant account, which is the next thing that's mentioned. A merchant account is a way for you to process payments, and that's getting you registered with Visa, Mastercard, Discover, American Express, and Union Pay, so that anytime you want to process a payment from your customer, you'll be able to process those payments. So going back to the gateway, what the gateway does is it connects the shopping cart that's part of your website to your merchant account. And there's literally thousands of gateways out there, as well as the shopping carts. There's so many choices. And so what I encourage everyone to do, anytime you're looking at having a website built, you're obviously going to be making a great decision to choose a web developer, someone that is knowledgeable on not only building websites, but specifically someone who's knowledgeable on building e-commerce websites. They are a bit different than a standard one. You're going to want to find out what shopping cart they tend to use or they choose to use. You'll find most developers have specific shopping carts, specific gateways, specific processors that they like to work with. And most of the time, that's purely a matter of they've worked with them enough that they know how their systems work. And it's a quicker and easier process for them. A great web developer will work with a processor that you choose for them to work with, but they're probably going to make recommendations, whether it's us or someone else, that they've already have experience with. And at the end of the day, what you want is a shopping cart and a gateway and a merchant account, that all three work together seamlessly with no issues. The best way you can simplify that is, if at all possible, use a gateway that's provided by the company who's doing your credit card processing. What will happen at that point is, if you do have an issue, and this will happen from time to time, it could be an issue with the shopping cart, or it could be an issue with the gateway, or it's possible it could be an issue with the credit card processor themselves. What will happen though, and I have seen this happen multiple times, is you start with the shopping cart and you make sure it's working okay. And as soon as you learn it's working okay, then you go to the gateway and to the credit card processing company. If the gateway is a different company than the credit card processing company, what tends to happen is the folks with the gateway tend to blame the credit card processor as the one that's creating the issue for you. Consequently, if you reach out to the credit card processor, they will tend to point the finger at the gateway and say, it looks like the gateway is giving us bad information. So if you can eliminate working with three companies, the gateway, the merchant processor, as well as the shopping cart, and just narrow that down to one company taking care of the gateway and merchant account for you, it will definitely improve your experience. Now, the last bullet point I have there about proper security measures in place. I truly feel that I could take this entire hour and just talk about online security, and it would be totally justified, because as I mentioned earlier, we're seeing more and more people selling online, and a lot of that is tied directly to COVID. I'm sure everyone that's viewing this, no matter what time you view this in the future, we can all agree that either we were directly impacted by COVID and it had an impact on our business or our jobs, or we know people who were it impacted. So even the folks who were considered to be essential workers and continue to go to work on a daily basis, most had friends and family members that worked with industries or businesses that were not considered essential. And so those people were sent home. And some companies ended up either laying off or furloughing employees, some for a few weeks, some for a few months. And it was a really hard thing for a lot of people to deal with, the fact that suddenly a governor of whatever state you happen to live in could make a decision that you're no longer allowed to go to work until the governor says it's okay again. And suddenly, depending on your company's circumstances, you may no longer have an income. So we've seen a huge increase in people who are starting businesses. A lot of them are, in fact, selling online, and quite a few of those are even people who are running their business from home. We've seen this huge increase, not only with new business owners and new merchant accounts, but also, our credit card processing volume has went up, literally over $1 billion a year just with our company. Actually, it's more than that. But we're not the only ones that have noticed that increase. Hackers and people who are very adept at going online and wreaking havoc with a website, they've also noticed this increase in business. And so they're taking advantage of it. Oops, I apologize. So some of the things that you definitely want to touch base on. There's an entire list that I can send to Sandy, and I'll go over some more of this in detail a little bit later. But just know that selling online is a great way to increase your business, but without proper security, it can not only bring you some money, it can also bring you a large expense. Okay, let's talk about Omnicommerce. So Omnicommerce, for those of you that are like me a few years ago when I wasn't exactly sure what we were talking about with Omnicommerce, it's very basically, or simply just, it's a way of running your business where you're processing sales in person, you're taking payments over the phone, you're taking payments to your website, you may even be taking payments mobily. And the reason that Omnicommerce is so important is it's opening your business to the world instead of just opening your business to Washington County, Virginia, to Abingdon, to Damascus, to Glade Spring, to the local region. It's opening up your business all around. and you're doing it with a retail business that in the past that just would not have been the case. As said here, you're opening up to the world, so you're able to take payments 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're able, with Omnicommerce, you'll be able to integrate your online sales with in-store point of sale solutions. That's very important for inventory tracking and things like that. If you've ever made a purchase online, just to receive an email a day or two later telling you that your order has been processed, but that there will be a delay in shipping you the product because it's out of stock. That's a great example of a lack of integration. It will give you that real-time inventory so that you can do just the very thing I just talked about, preventing the overselling. And, in the event of something like COVID happening, it will allow the business to continue to make sales. We had a lot of business owners last year that had to shut down their business, but they would forward their phones to their cell phones. And suddenly a lot of them were forced to figure out a way to accept payments from their customers because their credit card terminal, which we still have tens of thousands of clients that use those, their credit card terminal was sitting in their business. And quite a few of our clients actually ended up driving to their business, unhooking the credit card terminal, taking it home and connecting it to the internet at their house. But for a lot of our folks, they were either already set up with Omnicommerce, or we were able to add that to their account so that they would be able to process payments through their website or even just receive payments. So people ask me all the time, what type of business would accept online payments, and who is a good fit for Omnicommerce? It's a great question. I already referenced the brick and mortar retail stores. It's really the backbone of our nation is the small mom and pop stores that are all around. Those are the ones that typically are known for what they sell within their community, but usually are not selling online. Those folks are now having tremendous success selling online because they've learned that there's a huge demand for their products. It's just a matter of letting people know about them. Restaurants, online ordering has taken off so much more so now than ever before. Online ordering was popular before COVID, but as I'm sure at this point, anyone watching this has probably taken advantage of curbside pickup, or at least going online and making reservations, or even just ordering online using an app or something along those lines. Maybe you're ordering your pizza. What's crazy is I know a number of folks that they'll sit in the drive-through, and if the drive-through is backed up at their favorite restaurant, they'll sit in the drive-through, pull out their phone, use the app, place the order, and by the time they're able to get to the window where they would normally be, or the screen where they would normally place their order, they can just tell them, I've ordered online. And so they're able to just go right on through, and the order is ready, no different than if they had waited. So, online ordering is something that's going to continue to grow, and really it's the future of the restaurant industry. Municipalities is something that a lot of folks may not necessarily think about until you think about your day-to-day activities. If you look at your monthly bills that you receive at home, whether it's utilities, the water, the electric, gas, things like that, your renewal of your driver's license or your vehicle registration, paying property taxes, all of those are great examples of where municipalities have adopted online payments as a way to allow us as the consumers to make those purchases or payments when it's convenient for us. But it's also allowed them to be able to cut down on the walk-in traffic, which, let's face it, again, because of COVID, so many businesses and municipalities especially, they're trying to limit exposure to people walking in their door. So they are increasing their capabilities for accepting payments online. And they're encouraging people to go to their website to make a payment instead of walking into the business. The other nice thing about when payments are made online for the municipalities is as that payment is made, that information is pulled into their software, and it's going to update your account to show that you've paid your utility bill, or that you've you've renewed your driver's license or your registration. And so it will allow automation within the software to make things easier for the people who work there. Schools and universities, this is something that has really evolved over the last several years. Now it's so common for any, at this point, elementary school kid, middle school, high school. It's so common for parents to be able to load money onto their lunch account by going to a website. They can send a check or cash to the school, and the school will also do that. But the challenge is sometimes the check gets lost or the cash disappears, and the kid has no money on their lunch account or their breakfast account or anything like that. So being able to go online and load the lunch accounts gives the parents control, and they don't have to worry about the kids losing the check or the money. In case of private schools and universities, it also gives parents the different ways to go in and pay tuition. And sometimes that may be in a one-time payment. Sometimes it's an ongoing payment. In either case, they're able to do that online at their convenience instead of having to write a check at a certain time and things like that. Those once or twice a semester scenarios like purchasing books, field trips, anything along those lines. Those are all great examples of where a school or university would be able to benefit from having online payments, and not only the online payments, but the Omnicommerce experience of taking those purchases and payments in person, but also allowing them online. All right, medical offices. This is one of my favorites. Medical offices, obviously, the amount of money that is spent every year with the medical industry, it outweighs just about any other industry out there. And what's interesting is so often patients put off paying their medical bills. Sometimes it's because they don't have the funds available, but sometimes it's because their doctor's office may not accept payments online. And so the only time that person can make a payment is they either have to mail a check, which a lot of people don't have anymore, or they're forced to find time while they're at work during the day to try and call the doctor's office and hopefully get someone to answer the phone and hope that they're not calling during their lunch hour or something like that, and that they'll be able to make a payment. What we have seen is that I mentioned before about people not having checks. More and more individuals, as they open up their checking accounts, they're no longer getting checks because so few businesses will even take a check as payment. So it does force a consumer to find ways to pay with their debit card or with their credit card. And as I mentioned before, sometimes your work schedule and the schedule that the medical office has for being open may not work well together. Well, with a medical office, you can set everything up for online payments. You can also set up an automated system, a phone system, and we do this with municipalities quite often, where the person who's calling to try to make a payment, they can choose an option in the phone tree. Like one might be customer service, two might be billing, three might be technical service, number four might be to make a payment, just as an example. And when they make that, or they choose that make a payment option, an automated system that's tied to their phone system will actually take that payment. It will have them put in their account number. It will have them enter in their card number, the expiration date, the amount they're paying. It will take all of that information that in the past someone would sit there and manually talk on the phone and do that. Now the system will automatically do that for them. And just like in the online payments, it will record that payment in the customer, or in this case, patient's information, and show that they paid their balance. Online pay is huge for medical, again, because so many people are at work during the day when offices are open. And so when they get the mail in the evening, the office is closed. And there's nothing easier than just going ahead and jumping onto their website very quickly and making that payment. And most medical offices at this point, at least our clients, they're including a link to their website and also the phone payment system. They'll include that information on their invoices and encourage the patients to pay that way. when they're encouraging people to make those payments online or by phone, they're doing two things. They're automating the process, which is great for everyone. But what they're also doing is they're reducing the number of calls that are coming in, and they're reducing the amount of employees' hours. So as a business owner, this is a huge benefit, because you're not necessarily looking to reduce the number of employees you have. What you're looking to do is free up time for those employees to do other tasks instead of just sitting there taking calls all day to make payments. Okay, now I promised we were going to talk about some online payment security. Security is huge in the payments world. We spend, Gene, we're going to come back to that question in just a moment. When it comes to online payments, security is huge, because we spend more time and money focusing on preventing fraud and theft than we do anything else. So when you're taking payments online, you have no way of knowing who is paying you. You know what they're purchasing, or even if they're making a payment for their account, maybe there's their utility account or anything like that, but you have no way of knowing for sure that they're using their credit card. In addition to that, it could be purchases that from people who maybe that they're not even really, they don't care about the purchase. They're just trying to make sure a credit card actually works. So Visa and Mastercard have some specific requirements for any business that's taking payments through their website. One of the first ones is an SSL certificate. An SSL certificate, if you go to a website, if you look up in the address bar, you'll typically see a little closed lock, and then you'll see the address of the website. It'll say HTTPS, that means secure. If you see one that does not have the S, it will also not have a little lock that is closed. It will have a lock that is open. So you definitely want to have an SSL certificate. That is one of the first things that that's showing that you're taking the steps to secure your website. You also want to have a privacy policy. This is required by Visa and Mastercard and Discover and American Express, so that they know that, and your customers will know that their information isn't going to be sold or passed off to other businesses. You also have to post a refund policy. That refund policy may be, in fact, that you have no refunds, or that you don't offer refunds, but you do have to have a refund policy stated. In addition to that, you have to list out not only the contact information of the business, phone number, the address, and email address, but you also have to list the country of origin. And that primarily stems from the fact that there are fraudulent websites on the web that are made to be a mirror image of businesses that are legitimate, but in fact, the ones that are out there are not legit. They're actually usually being ran by someone outside of the continental US who is in fact trying to just steal credit card information. I already talked about that contact info. Now, in addition to those requirements from Visa and Mastercard, some of the additional steps that you can take to protect yourself and your website, anytime that you're using any shopping cart, and we talked about this before with not only the shopping cart, but also the gateway, you'll have various filters, security filters that you can put in place. A lot of times they'll be referred to as velocity filters, but these are different criteria that you can put in place to help protect yourself. You can block purchase attempts. If you're a business that doesn't sell outside of the United States, you can block purchase attempts from any IP address outside of the United States. You can also limit the number of transactions that can be attempted, not only in a day, but in an hour. You can limit the number of transactions that can be attempted from a specific IP address. And the reason that's such a big deal is because of something that it's called authorization testing, and it's the successive declines is what I'm referencing there. So you can also enable what's called Recaptcha, and Recaptcha is simply the checkout process that we've all been through before, where there will be a little box that says "I'm not a robot" that we have to check, and then sometimes it will come in with having us type out the numbers that are all scribbly and everything, or numbers It can also be something where we're choosing the pictures and we have to click on the pictures that have a truck in them or a sign or something. All of those are efforts to stop something called authorization testing. And authorization testing, simply put, is when a person finds your website and then runs automation, runs what's called bots. It's a software program that they'll run on your website to try to make purchases using stolen credit card information. And the people who are doing this don't care about whatever it is they're trying to purchase. All they're trying to do is find out which credit cards work and which ones don't. So typically they'll find a website that has very little security. It doesn't have the security filters in place, those velocity filters. The website doesn't put a block on an IP address after a certain number of attempts. It's not using Recaptcha. And what will happen is that automation will run transactions, literally thousands of transactions in just a very short amount of time. Using all these security filters and Recaptcha, it's a great way to make things more difficult for that automation to run. And eventually what will happen is the person's going to find another website that doesn't have the proper security in place. The reason that you want to make sure you have all this in place, though, is because, as I mentioned, you do have automation running these transactions. And what can happen to the business is, even though all of these attempts, or nearly all of them, will be declined transactions because the cards have been reported stolen, anytime that you process a payment or you attempt to process a payment, you have an authorization attempt. And so there is a fee from Visa and Mastercard, Discover, and American Express every single time an automation or a purchase attempt is made. So in addition to that, there's also a fee charged for any transactions that are coming from an IP address outside of the United States. It's called a cross-border fee. So it is entirely possible for a business to see, depending on the credit card processing company they work with, they can see a fee anywhere from 13.5 cents all the way up to, I've seen some as high as 35 to 40 cents per authorization attempt. And when you think about the average authorization testing incident has at least 50,000 authorization attempts, you can see where it can be extremely expensive for a business owner, because those authorization attempts, although they're fraudulent with the purchase attempts, the fees that are generated by Visa, Mastercard, Discover, and American Express, those are legitimate fees, and the business can be held responsible for paying those. And literally, I've seen clients that have had as few as 18,000 authorization attempts. And I also have a client that their web developer did not put proper security in place, and they had over 495,000 authorization attempts within a 1 month period. It's not uncommon for a business to see in excess of 10,000 authorization attempts per hour. So these security filters and these security measures, I can't emphasize them enough. One thing you can do in addition to these is, whenever you do have someone who makes a purchase online, customer service is always a great thing. So most people will appreciate a phone call the following day just to say, hey, thank you so much for making your purchase. By the way, we had a quick question. We wanted to make sure we had your shipping address correct, or whatever the case may be. But find a reason to talk to that customer and make sure that it's a legitimate purchase. All right. So, Sandy, I apologize. I've been talking so fast, but I want to try to make sure I covered everything. But just to kind of wrap things up a little bit, a point of sale solution is going to provide business owners with all the tools that they would need to track and grow their business. It's going to give you all of the access you need. If you take advantage of Omnicommerce, it's going to take all of that information that is part of the point of sale, and it's going to give you an increased ability to not only grow your sales, but to grow your customer base and to grow your brand, because you're selling outside of your local area or region, you're selling nationwide. E-commerce, the bullet point says e-commerce is a valuable tool that allows business owners to sell their products or services. I'm going to tell you, I think it's an invaluable tool. I don't think you can put a price on what it can do for you, because it can allow you to have a business that's ran out of a spare bedroom. And I have a client, just one that comes to mind, and I have many that are like this. I have clients that run businesses out of a spare bedroom or their garage or their basement. They have no storefront whatsoever, and they sell anywhere from $75,000 to $150,000 worth of goods every single month out of that spare bedroom or their basement or their garage. So it can allow you, just taking advantage of e-commerce, it can allow you to create a business on the side, grow that business in your off hours, and allow that to become your primary source of income. This is all my contact information. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. And Sandy, I know that there was one question, and I've lost the question. Where did that go? Jean had a question about Omnicommerce, and I apologize. I can't find it now. It must have been deleted. But she was asking about Omnicommerce and how the point of sale ties in with that. And so, and Jean, if I'm not correct on this, please do post that again. I'm sorry, I must have deleted it.
It's in chat, and she said, Omnicommerce is Omnicommerce part of the point of sale system, or does that need to be linked to a POS system?
Perfect. I appreciate that. I was hitting the wrong button. I was hitting Q&A instead of chat. Obviously, I am not the techie guy, but yes. So Omnicommerce technically is simply selling in person and also selling online. It can be tied directly to a point of sale, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. There are quite a few point of sales out there that currently do not have an online integration. And some of the ones that do they're okay at best. It's definitely something you would have to track on a daily basis. What I can tell you is the future of the industry, from what we see and hear on a daily basis, is nearly every point of sale solution out there is developing their own Omnicommerce platform, which is an online payment platform to go with the POS. Or if they're not developing on their own, they're already working with online platforms for an integration option. So I hope that helps. Let's see, is there any others?
I think that's everything. Saw another one pop up. No, she said that did it, but I have some questions.
Good deal.
And folks, I'll give you some time if you have questions for Chris. This is your opportunity to speak up. Let's say that I'm starting out, and I thought this is the system for me. And a month, 6 months in, I realized I made a really major boo-boo. And this isn't the right one for my type of business. How hard is it to basically switch services?
It's a great question. So what happens with and this happens a lot, by the way, what we see happen a lot with even the folks that are referred to us by our banks and credit unions that are partners with us, it happens frequently where someone will reach out to us, they'll ask some questions, and then they kind of disappear. And we may not hear from them for 3 months, 6 months. And then suddenly they'll call back and they're like, well, I was looking online and I found something I thought was a better fit. And so now I've learned it's not, and I need your help. And so what unfortunately happens a majority of the time is a lot of the companies that are really heavily marketing online, those are companies that typically are going to place that business owner into a contract anywhere from 3 to 5 years, often with a cancellation fee of at least $500, if not more, to close their merchant account. And in addition to that, the point of sale equipment that they are using through that processor, often it's not set up as a rental. They're either charged that equipment up front or it's being leased to them. And usually it's a lease. And so the challenge there is, in order to get out of that contract and lease, you're typically going to pay a cancellation fee, and you're also going to have to pay off that lease. As far as transitioning from a point of sale to another point of sale, it's usually a fairly simple process. Most of the point of sale solutions out there will allow you to download all of your inventory, your employees' information, essentially all of the online reporting. You're going to be able to download that and save it. And then typically you're going to be able to upload that into a new point of sale. The great thing about the cloud-based systems, especially the ones that operate off of an iPad, is that usually you're already going to have some of the equipment. You're probably going to have not only the iPad, but an iPad stand. You may already have a receipt printer, even a barcode scanner, some of those things. And a lot of the point of sale solutions, they use the same printers, the same barcode scanners. So that equipment will work with multiple options as far as that goes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes, it does. And I was shocked. Well, I guess I learned something today, so it was worth it. How can businesses manage this authorization attempts to reduce the fees? I mean, I never knew that existed. And for some that does not have the right kind of internet set up, or not internet, but their website set up, that could be a big chunk that they can't afford to have happen. So what are some things that they can do to protect themselves?
The best thing that you can do is, if you were to go back to that slide where I talked about the security, a lot of people like to build their own websites or use a free service. That's the beautiful thing about the world we live in, is there's a lot of free options out there. There is something to be said for you get what you pay for. And so what we do see happening from time to time is a lot of those free services, they don't have the proper security in place. So if you're not sure that your website is secure, and if you're not sure how to manage that, it is money well spent to find a web developer. And even if you don't want them to rebuild your site, even if you don't want them to take care of your hosting, it's worth it to find a web developer that you could pay to help them, or have them help you make sure those security, or that the proper security is in place. Now, one of the things that you're absolutely going to be able to do, I know any of the gateways that we work with, they all have those velocity filters in place. And so we love when our clients call in and say, hey, I need to get some better security. Can you help me with this? Our folks will take plenty of time to go through each of those security filters, explain what that does, and then make recommendations. Because like, I've had clients before that have had a really bad experience, been charged thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars for authorization attempts. And then because of that, they were so focused on locking down the website that they couldn't get transactions to go through because they had the security turned up so high. So any quality gateway and processor, they're excited when a client calls in and they're wanting to make sure their security is on point. Like, it's never a bother. It will help you. It will also help us.
Great. Jean has another question. For a small business starting out, approximately how much would they need a budget for a cloud-based point of sale system?
It's a great question. And, it does vary a bit based off of the type of equipment. Some businesses will need one station and that's it. Some businesses may need a checkout station and then have like a equipment in the kitchen, maybe a printer, some different things. What I can tell you is it's going to vary from company to company and the different POS solutions. The one that we work with, quite frankly, the one that I work with the most at this point, they actually include the equipment as part of the monthly fee. So you can literally be using their service, including the equipment, for as low as $39 a month, with very little to no upfront equipment expense. It is not uncommon to spend somewhere in the neighborhood of $750 to about $1,500 to $1,800 for a lot of the point of sale solutions, because you're buying, you may be buying an iPad, you may be buying the iPad stand, the printers, and all of those different things, the card reader, all of that. And then on that monthly fee, outside of the one that we work so closely with, most of them will have a monthly fee that goes anywhere from $29 to about $149 a month, just depending on the different features that you need to run the business.
Now, have hackers targeted the payment system industry like they are doing other social media accounts?
Great question. So a number of years ago, there was actually a very large processor at the time, and they still exist. It's a company called Heartland Payment Systems. They actually had a data breach where they were, as I understand it, the hackers were able to access not only the credit card numbers as they were flowing through their system, but also they were able to access the clients, which would be the business owners. They were able to access their personal information, things like that. That's not the norm in any way, shape, or form. And we don't really see that, although I'm sure they're attempting it every single day. But what we're seeing now is the hackers have figured out there are millions and millions of unprotected websites out there. And so just like they use automation to run those authorization attempts, they also use automation to find the websites that don't have the proper security. And most of the hacking is coming from the Middle East, Ukraine, sometimes it's China. So what we see is most of the auth testing or authorization testing, as it's referred to, most of it's happening at night. So while we're asleep, on the other side of the world, that's when they're at work. And they really don't hack, or they don't focus on the payment side of it as much as all they're trying to do is figure out which of the 50 to 100,000 stolen credit cards they're trying to run before our systems on the back end see all of these declined transactions, and we stop that from happening. They're just trying to see how many can we get in, how many cards can we run in this short amount of time frame, and how many good cards can we find, because they may pay, I have no idea what this list run. Maybe it's $50 for 1,000 cards. I don't really know what it costs, but when they're buying card numbers, it's a very small amount. But then if they're selling them and they're all verified as active cards, I'm sure they're able to sell them for quite a bit more.
Okay, we've got just another 2 minutes or less. Can you
Sure.
share with us an example of a uh-oh moment of one of your clients that could benefit those that are going to be viewing this, that they don't want to do that?
Oh, absolutely. So I had a client that he was only going to be selling online with his business. He didn't want walk-in traffic. And he said, I'm just need a really basic website. I'm going to build this on my own. And I explained, okay, that's fine. But I promise you really should enlist the services of someone that knows what they're doing. He insisted, nope, don't need to do that. I'm not going to have any of those issues because my website's going to be so small. Nobody would ever want to deal with it. Within a few weeks of his website being up and running, he had over 18,000 authorization attempts. His account was put on hold until we were able to explain, hey, you need to go back and fix these security issues. He said, no problem. I'll take care of it. I'll even hire somebody to take care of it. And I was like, not a problem. He called in, told us, hey, I've taken all the necessary steps on the back end. And he was using a gateway that we don't work with. Like, we don't own it, so we can't check to make sure he actually used the security like he was supposed to. And within a week of his account being turned back on and being active, he had over 48,000 authorization attempts come through. That business owner, well, he no longer has a business. And part of it was because, he had so much come out in fees, and he just didn't have the sales to go in with it. So, it's well worth hiring someone that knows what they're doing, because they'll help you get business. They'll help you get the traffic to your website that will lead to sales, instead of just having a website that's left exposed and suddenly you're vulnerable to someone that can hack it.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because working with small businesses, especially starting out, they want to reduce costs and spend as less as they can. But they use some of these services online, like Weebly and Wix, to build their website, which I'm not saying anything negative about it, but
Sure.
They need to be schooled and understand, does that protect them going forward and not have these things happen to you?
Sure.
Katie Lamb mentioned about GoDaddy. It's a good source for build a website too.
I can't tell you I have a lot of experience with clients that have used GoDaddy. I know a lot of people that buy their URL through GoDaddy, but when it comes to actually building a site, I don't have a lot of experience with it, because typically if you go through a service like that, they're going to push you very heavily to use their quote unquote partner for credit card processing. And just know, whoever their preferred partner is, they're preferred because they're paying them, if that makes sense. And so I don't have a lot of experience with anyone who's built a website through GoDaddy. From my experience, you're better off to have someone that's local that you can actually work with. And I realize that that's going to be a more expensive option than something like GoDaddy or a number of those services that you mentioned, Sandy. But I do feel like there's value in that, because not only can that person help you and work with you, but you're able to sit down with them and just know that that person is no different than me. I feel like I'm a partner in your business because we're helping you with that small part of it, which is actually, in most cases, it's anywhere from 50 to 100% of the income coming in. But, we're partnering in your success. And a quality web developer, they're going to feel the exact same way. So I don't have enough experience. One thing I can tell you that you could do with GoDaddy, just like you can with the credit card processing industry, if you go to Google and you do a search and say, for example, with GoDaddy website builder or building complaints, just like in the credit card processing world, take the name of whatever company is calling you and harassing you to sign up with them, type that into Google and put in the word complaints. You'll find the truth about that company from Google. You won't find it. If you search for reviews, you won't find anything. But I promise, if you search for complaints, you'll find a lot.
One other question from Katie, and then we'll close out. If you are only advertising, not selling any product, what is a good source?
If you're not selling anything, and I'm definitely not I'm not the web guy per se. Although most of my clients at this point are, not everyone has a website and most are selling online. I would think, there's probably lots of different ways you could do it. I'm a big fan of social media. I think actually social media with a good website can take you very, very far. I think if you don't do anything else, but you learn to become very good at building yourself and your brand on social media, it can be a very valuable tool.
Well, Chris, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to share tips and your experience with everyone today. This is why we do it, is to help our businesses. And we couldn't do this program without people like you donating their time to do that. I just want to remind everybody that today's session is being recorded, and it will be available on the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator's Facebook page, the Virginia Community Capital's Facebook page, and then our YouTube channel for New Knowledge. And plug for our next session, make plans to join us on November the 10th with Rachel Lewis, who's going to be sharing targeting marketing strategies for your business. So I hope you can join us on November the 10th. Again, thanks again, and hope everybody has a great afternoon. Take care. Thanks again, Chris.